When Haley Anderson, a nursing student at Binghamton University, went missing from her off-campus room in March 2018, it led to a search for her killer all over the world. Today, we will talk about the sad story of Haley Anderson, an American nursing student at Binghamton University who was killed by a fellow student. We would like to extend our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Haley Anderson, who fell victim to this unimaginable act. Hi and welcome back to Crime Case Files. Let us start by getting to know Haley Anderson better. Haley Anderson was born in New York in the town of Westbury. She was the bigger sister of Madeleine Anderson. Her parents were Karen and Gordon Anderson. When the accident happened in March 2018, she was 22 years old and in her last year of college at Binghamton University. She worked at the college coffee shop Jazz Man's for more than 3 years. She planned to graduate in May 2018 and already had a job at an emergency room on Long Island. Friends said that Anderson worked hard, was nice, cared about people, and really liked music. When she got into the nursing school at Binghamton University, she got straight A's there. Karen was looking forward to seeing her daughter in March 2018, a few months before she graduated. Karen was going to throw her a big party because she had worked so hard and done so well. She made a very long list of all the people she wanted to invite. Haley's boyfriend at the time was Kevin Ocampo, who was also a student at Binghamton. He remembers that she was most interested in becoming a nurse. When asked if he thinks she loved him and wanted to be with him, he said that she did, but that she first wanted to finish and have some real freedom. So what happened on the day of the murder? Haley Anderson went missing from her off-campus apartment on a normal day in early March 2018. Josie Arkham was not worried at first. She had no reason to believe that something bad had happened. It seemed like a typical student's life, full of ideas and choices that came to them out of the blue. In Westbury, New York, where Haley grew up, her mother Karen did not know that her 22-year-old daughter had gone missing. Her daughter was very independent, so Karen would only call her once a week, usually on Sundays. The woman who raised Anderson said that her daughter was a free spirit, but the next day, when Arton and one of Haley's other roommates still could not find her, they used the Find My Friends app to track her phone to the apartment of fellow nursing student Orlando Tercero. They were very worried. Arton looked for her friend by going to Orlando's place. She climbed through a window to get to Haley's body when no one opened the door. Orlando had disappeared. Investigators quickly found surveillance video that showed Orlando and Haley walking into his apartment. Who could have been the suspect? Is that right? Could it be Kevin Ocampo or someone totally different? Orlando Tercero was born in Miami, Florida, but his family is from Nicaragua, so that is where he grew up. He came from a rich family and did well in school. He was also in the nursing program. Jesse Bois, who is also a nursing student and one of Orlando's best friends and roommates, said that he liked to work hard in school during the week, and on the weekends he liked to go out, have a few drinks, meet up with friends, and dance, which is kind of like Haley in that way. Haley and Orlando met in class, but they did not become friends until Haley's 4th year of school, when they ran into each other at a party at Kevin's off-campus place. Orlando, Haley, and Kevin got closer, and Kevin even asked his new friend to join his club. For a while, it seemed like a good idea, but then Kevin and Haley broke up, and Orlando did something wrong in his friendship with Haley. Haley and Orlando had some romantic times, but Haley made it clear that she was not looking for a serious relationship. Orlando's fraternity kicked him out because he was sleeping with Kevin's partner. Karen Anderson said that Haley felt bad about what she did. Since Orlando had said he wanted to kill himself, Anderson's friend Josie Arkham said Orlando started coming to their house without being asked because he was jealous and wanted Haley to be his girlfriend. Around that time, Haley shared a video on Snapchat saying that someone had cut the tires on her car. Sydney Matuzak, a friend from when she was young, saved the post. It happened the day after Orlando found out that Haley and Kevin were dating at a party at his place. Karen, Haley's mom, said something about the event. "I told Haley, you need to file a police report. The police came, and took down the information, but she did not press charges because the damage was over $600, which would have made it a felony and gotten him kicked out of nursing school. Haley stayed away from Orlando for a while, but in the end, she let him back into her life. Haley was last seen about 6 months after her tires were cut. Haley's iPhone led Josie and another roommate, Michelle Tapoli, to Orlando's apartment, where they climbed through a window to look for their friend. Haley had been killed by being choked, and Orlando Tercero could not be found. On the afternoon of March 9, 2018, 2 guys were sitting in a black car in front of Karen Anderson's house. They told her that her daughter was found dead in Orlando's bed. The search for Haley's suspected assailant was spearheaded by Lieutenant Corey Minor from the Binghamton Police Department. Minor expressed his emotional state during that time, revealing feelings of numbness and anger. He expressed regret for not having pursued the arrest of the individual in question earlier, particularly in relation to incidents such as the tire slashing, and acknowledged his sense of responsibility for potentially missing red flags in Haley's situation. Several different cams are set up around the house to keep track of who comes and goes. The first recording the cops were interested in was when Haley met up with Orlando on March 8. The camera captures Anderson and Tercero as they walk into the house. About 7 hours after he and Haley got there, Orlando was seen cleaning up the trash in the driveway and going on his own. Using a receipt they found in his apartment, the cops followed him to a nearby pharmacy, where he bought 2 pills to help him sleep. Investigators think Orlando tried to hang himself in his apartment using hooks that were in the basement, but they think that when he tried and failed, he fell and hurt himself. Detectives also found a note written in Spanish that said, "I am really sorry about this. I never thought I was capable of doing this." It also said, "Father, I will see you soon." His father had died 5 years ago. Investigators thought it might be a confession and suicide note from a killer. At the airport, security cams caught Orlando with his bags and a bandage on his head. There he got on a plane to go back to Nicaragua, where he lived. About 16 hours before Haley's body was found, this happened. A group of reporters from 48 Hours went to Managua, Nicaragua, to follow Orlando's steps. They found out that Orlando's mother picked him up at the airport in Managua and drove him to their hometown of Chinandega for a few days. Orlando was apparently hiding in the house where he grew up in the small town. 4 days after he got there, Orlando's mother took him to the hospital in Leon. He tried to kill himself the next day in Managua. At a news conference, the police told the public that they had Orlando Tercero in custody. Orlando was now waiting for Nicaraguan police to charge him with a crime. It was the start of a fight for fairness around the world. Less than a week after Tercero's arrest, Haley's family and friends gathered in her hometown in New York to put her to rest. Gordon Anderson, Haley's dad, was there to accept her graduation on her behalf. Broome County's top prosecutor, Steve Cornwell, moved quickly to get Orlando charged with second-degree murder. Things were hard, though. Orlando had citizenship in both the U.S. and Nicaragua, and a deal says that neither country has to send one of its own to the other. In September 2019, Steve Cornwell was contacted by the Department of Justice, signaling a turning point in their endeavors. Describing the conversation to CBS News, Cornwell recounted receiving mixed news. He stated, "They informed me of both positive and negative aspects. The negative being the decision against extradition, while the alternative of conducting a trial in Nicaragua was presented as the positive aspect. Personally, I held skepticism about the chances of achieving a conviction under those circumstances. In the United States, a grand jury charged Orlando with second-degree murder. In Nicaragua, they would charge him with killing a woman." Some of Orlando's best friends, like Daniel Orquio, Ashley Lopes, and Juan Alaman, talked to 48 Hours. They said that Orlando was an amazing student who was always kind and caring and could not kill anyone. They did not think Orlando could have killed anyone, including Haley. In Nicaragua, Orlando did not have to make a plea as he did in the U.S. Steve Cornwell's nerves were starting to show. After a while, the Nicaraguan team of prosecutors asked Cornwell, and his office for help. They had 8 days to get ready for trial, and the Nicaraguan government decided to use teleconferencing during the trial. Witnesses would speak from the DA's office in Broome County to a court in Managua, which is thousands of miles away. Instead of a jury, a judge would decide the outcome of Orlando's trial. On October 1st, 2019, the trial started, and Haley's mother was the first witness for the defense. Karen said that her daughter's friendship with Orlando was not going well. He would not stop texting her, following her, and driving by her house. Karen was giving her testimony when she saw Orlando on the TV. Describing her experience, she shared sentiments of sadness over the negative impact he inflicted on the lives of many. As the trial unfolded, her feelings of anger grew due to his rudeness and apparent indifference, portraying a sense of boredom during the proceedings. Josie Artin also said that Orlando was protective of Haley. Kevin, Haley's ex-boyfriend, told the judge that he thought the reason Haley's tires were cut was because he and Haley were back together. Carl Peters, a Binghamton police investigator, went over all the evidence, including the security video, in detail with the judge. They also looked at the evidence, which was a handwritten note they found in Orlando's room. Peters came to the conclusion that jealousy was probably the reason. Dr. James Turgeon, who did Haley's exam, also testified and said that the cause of death was asphyxiation by neck compression. District Attorney Steve Cornwell, overwhelmed by the evidence, said that he choked her to death. He took Haley, who I believe may have been sleeping, and he choked the life out of her and left her there to rot. That is a sick, disturbed man that could take advantage of somebody he claimed to love and kill her because he couldn't have her. Orlando's defense attorney Eduardo Ruby argued that due to the influence of alcohol, Orlando was temporarily insane at the time of the murder, and in an effort to prove it, he called a psychiatrist as his first and only witness. According to Dr. Ronald Lopez Aguilar, who was appointed by the court and talked to Orlando about what happened, Orlando had no recollection of what happened. He said he woke up after a night of heavy drinking and found Haley dead. The expert, Dr. Lopez Aguilar, couldn't confirm whether any of those statements were true, and he said there's no way to prove what Orlando's state of mind was at the time of the murder. He could only conclude there was nothing wrong with the defendant's current mental state. District Attorney Cornwell commented, "There is no evidence that he was drunk or on drugs. There is no proof that he had a problem that made him sleepwalk and, kill people in his sleep." Judge Fabiola Betancourt gave Haley's family a last word after both sides had spoken. This is something that never happens in the U.S. before a decision. Karen Anderson spoke up for her daughter and said, "Haley was a beautiful, smart, and kind girl. She wanted to be a nurse and had her whole life ahead of her. She was my best friend, and she still is. So, thank you for hearing and letting me talk on my daughter's behalf." The defense attorney, Cornwell, thought the judge would take at least a day to decide, but she surprised him by saying she would give her verdict after a short break. After a tense hour and a half, the judge made a statement condemning violence against women and calling for equal rights. She also said that Orlando killed Haley because he could not accept that she had control over herself. Orlando was then found guilty of femicide. Haley's parents were told not to show any emotion in front of the cameras. Karen Anderson said, "It does not bring her back, and it does not make you feel better. But you do feel like you can close the book on that chapter now and start trying to move forward and heal." She also said to Orlando, "I hope you get the most years in prison because you deserve even more than that." Judge Betancourt said in her ruling that Tercero took it upon himself to punish Haley for rejecting him. 2 weeks later, Tercero was given the maximum sentence of 30 years in prison. Some of Orlando's friends thought he did not deserve the maximum sentence, but none of them have seen him since he was convicted. However, some of them have gotten phone calls and letters. One of them, Ashley Lopez, said he asked her to pray for him and stay positive. They all still support him. And some, like Stephanie Moroni, are even sure he is innocent and think the court missed some evidence. Another of Orlando's high school friends, who asked to remain anonymous, thinks that Orlando's defense that he was not in his right mind when Haley was killed and that he could have been drunk or high is true. None of his friends thought that being drunk or high could justify what happened, but the question of Orlando's state of mind remains somewhat of a mystery. If an appeals court lets him, Orlando's lawyer wants a new doctor to look at the case. The lawyer, Cornwell, thinks that Orlando is a killer who probably would have killed someone else someday, even if he had not killed Anderson. On February 4, 2020, Orlando Tercero was back in a Nicaraguan courtroom to appeal his conviction. He was heavily guarded before a panel of 3 magistrates. Orlando's trial attorney, Eduardo Ruby, was still in charge of the case and argued again that Tercero was highly intoxicated and temporarily insane at the time of the murder. He wanted a new psychiatric evaluation by a forensic psychiatrist who specializes in temporary insanity defenses. Josie Artin found it hard to believe that Orlando could not remember killing her friend. She thought that as a nursing student, Orlando would know that the person in front of him is dying and stop choking her. The trial attorney argued that Orlando was wrongly charged with femicide and sentenced to 30 years, while in the U.S., he would have been charged with second-degree murder and would probably face a lighter sentence with the possibility of parole. The magistrates almost immediately considered and rejected the request for a second psychiatric opinion. When it comes to Tercero's sentence, they said they would need time to deliberate and that, at this moment, they will not issue a resolution. Almost 3 weeks later, the 48 Hours team was back in New York, waiting for a decision from the court in Nicaragua. They did an interview with Karen Anderson in a room that used to be Haley's, where Karen kept her daughter's ashes. Karen explained that she wanted to do the interview to honor Haley. She wanted Haley's death to have some purpose in life and to bring femicide to attention in the United States, as it is on the rise and considered a very serious crime. She said she wished there was a femicide law in the United States. On March 10, 2020, nearly 2 years after the court's decision, Karen and Gordon Anderson went to the Broome County DA's office to hear the court's decision. The hearing lasted over an hour while an officer of the court read the decision on 12 pages. In the end, it took a nervous Karen Anderson a moment to realize that the appeal had been completely denied. She thanked the court and the defense attorney for all their hard work. Haley's defense attorney conveyed that in the event Tercero were to be released and attempted to enter the United States, Broome County would take action to apprehend him. The attorney stated that the county would proceed with his arrest and trial, serving the interests of the family. When questioned by the reporter about how she wished her daughter to be commemorated, Karen Anderson responded by saying, "I envision her as the millennial hippie who exuded an unconventional and joyful spirit. The sorrow lies in her unwavering trust in others." Karen expressed that placing trust in individuals embodying such qualities is indeed advisable. This is the case of a relationship that started out as a mutual romantic attraction, but ended in the worst way possible. Millions of people break up and get rejected every day, but they do not commit murder. Why was this case different? Was it because of drugs? What was going on between Haley and Orlando that night? Could the murder have been stopped? It is hard to say, but what matters is that the judges have made their decision. If you like this video, you should subscribe to the channel, which is what made it possible. Here's another video you might like.